Okay, so that is some stuff. So we're going to talk about generating functions next. We can have a brief interlude of admin things. So there is an assignment due this Friday. Office hours are the normal thing, and usually, you know, we're around for most of the day afterwards, so you should come along. I know there's a question at the end of that I haven't really written out, so maybe that will not exist. Anyway, I'll tell you about that. I had some light things to show you and some serious things to show you, I guess. This is the it's all Greek to me for different languages. So English speakers say it's all Greek to me. The Chinese say it's all heavenly script, apparently. Russians point to Chinese. The French point to Javanese. So it's kind of it's a funny thing. The Spanish get it a little bit, actually, which is funny. Then they point to Chinese. What's that? The French have Greek? Oh, they have a bunch of them. Yeah, there's an obnoxiousness level. Norwegian points to Greek. You're right, and English points to Greek, which is the famous one for us and English speakers. But, you know, it's, of course, they're all going to have their own. It does seem to be also that it's pretty widespread, that all languages have something like this. Yeah.
Based on this, has anyone ever looked at kind of how languages feed into each other? Like, I understand a lot of people have language families, but has anyone ever looked into necessarily like the
like borrowed words? No.
Sort of, but like kind of like the associativity of languages based on borrowed words. Like, look how similar French is to English based on words that they each share with each other, or that have been borrowed.
I mean, I think it's been charted out. I mean, yes, there's been charted. I mean, there's the Indo-European, right? That sort of proto-language. Yeah. But then there's sort of a different one for up the top of Europe, right? That's got its own roots. But, I mean, I think but there's definitely some historical stuff that's happened, right? I mean, Normans invade, and that dumps all these words in. You know, and English has these kind of beautiful, weird things, like so the words for animals are Old English, but the words for the meat are French, right? Which is quite enjoyable. Pork and veal and all those things, because they were the ones who were in charge and kind of had it. So there are just weird features. I don't know, you'd think there'd be more sloshing around, and there's more spreading, of course, now, but there's also evidence that there are more separations of local accents, at least in the US, that have happened, which is, you know, Michigan has developed a stronger local accent in the last 30 or 40 years, which is interesting, you know, because I think there's this great sense that everyone will become homogenized. There's a weird thing too in American English. There was that kind of pseudo-English American accent. I don't know what's called, the North Atlantic accent, but if you go back to like anything from the Second World War or the newscasters, and tonight we're blah, 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 blah. You know, there's this kind of thing in that, you know, movies, and then it just sort of it's gone, right? That was this very odd. Anyway, sorry. This is eternally interesting. What's up? Okay, there must be, because it is odd, right? I mean, it's sort of a thing.
It was like a specific like broadcaster thing. Yeah.
Broadcasters absolutely did it. There was definitely something in Okay, so it's a little bit for you, Sean. This is I was asking online if there was any taxonomy of the stories of science fiction about the future, right? Like what people have sort of forecast, in a sense, right? And so that's what apparently this site is about. I mean, I haven't looked, but someone came back to me with this, and it's right. So it's sort of, yeah, of the kind of ideas and so on that people have come up with. Because famously, right? I mean, a lot of these things have been efforts to actually really. I mean, Asimov was doing all this. Arthur C. Clarke, you know, satellites and things. Yeah. So, the most what? Did the best? certainly the most. So there'd be the most, and you could have the most and the best hits. Like Asimov wrote 500 books, so it's just a huge W next to him. I mean, he has a book that I came across the other day, which was about the like a global computer, right? Do you know the something back or something? Which, and then what happens, when you ask it to solve all of humanity's problems? So it's, anyway, we should basically go back and look at all that. Just there's a couple of random things while we're sort of in between. So this is a bad thing to report on, but it's the, the aftermath of the school shooting in Florida. And it was, I have to say, it was kind of odd because this is Wednesday, February 14th. So this was not a particularly low day because Valentine's Day is on that day and it sort of happened later in the day. So it really matters. Like if it happens late in the day, then because we're just sort of averaging the whole day. If we have the minute by minute or the 15 by minute, whatever, you'd see it, go. But it really, these things often don't persist for too long, but there we've got 2 days really. And of course it's still being talked about in here, but other things are being talked about as well. Something we haven't been able to measure, but it's just news density. The story density has just been insane, at least it seems to me, like just in the last 2 years, there are just so many things happening. And kind of, annotating this thing over a long time, there are periods where there isn't that much, right? There just haven't been that many things. There was, there's a real sort of thing in the middle here of extrajudicial killings of typically black men and women, right? That just emerged. I mean, it's not back here. That emerges, and then different kinds of terrorist attacks and so on. But yeah, these shootings in the last couple of years have been extraordinary. So we'll see. I spoke to I know something I mentioned this. I spoke to the Guardian for a couple of hours, I think, on Sunday, because we have a paper on school shootings, right? So, and it shows there is a copycat effect statistically, right? There is a higher chance of an attack after an attack. It's not going to be as bad on average, but and there's some numbers and so on. But it does sort of accentuate things. There were a lot of arrests after the Parkland of students who. Of course, people are hyper vigilant right then, but a lot of students were arrested around the place. There was, of course, this student in Rutland. I don't know if you saw this, but he'd been planning an attack for 2 years. And that sort of brings me to something that I've thought about for a long time, and it's kind of this is a peculiar thing to me because, so this is about Black Panther, but what it gets to here is, this is a 538 piece. And haven't people seen this movie? You have all this free time. You have? It was pretty good, right? You haven't? No. But it's done very well. Yeah. Anyway, they're talking about this character who is a Q-like character and is funny, I guess. James Bond Q. But then the point is here, that this is a representation of, so a female black woman, in this technological whatever, and then goes on, look, here's all this data about how movies affect people, right? So the Hunger Games and Brave, people took up bow and arrow, okay. Archery competition went up. So there's some silly things. Archaeology did well because of Indiana Jones. This guy who's writing this thing talks about how Jurassic Park made him go into science because of Jeff Goldblum. Danforth might have a similar origin story, I've got to tell you. But anyway, you should. We've got to check with him on that one. The Hobbit has been great for New Zealand. This is not a story thing, but movies have effects on people, and of course these are all positive things, right? So the way it's written, it's there's no problem. So what is it? The line here is. Sorry, I'm moving around. The volume of evidence shows that when an audience see on-screen representations of themselves, particularly aspirational ones, that experience can fundamentally change how they perceive their own place in the world. So it's great, right? But of course, negative. So what's never talked about is like dark, negative stories are also inspirational. And so But I've seen over the years, many people get up and say they have no effect. Like it's purely entertainment. People leave those films and have no, and I mean, it's kind of interesting because there's documented evidence that, so it could be that good positive stories really do affect people. Bad ones do not. They just don't, because it's just sort of a different thing. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing.
Makes me think of how there's so many television shows about like cops.
Mm-hmm. Like literally called cops.
That are just like cops versus black people. Basically the whole time.
The real ones. The one where they just film it. Yeah.
That has to have.
So on the one hand, we say it matters, and then we say, like it's kind of funny. So I'm not sure what the story is, but it's kind of confused. Because people say, violent video games don't turn everyone into serial killers, which is true, right? It doesn't. But that's the point of this too. It's like you're adjacent to it, and then it can have an effect. Yeah. Yeah, and people, you can get people think you're insane for saying these things have an effect on people. So, but then on the other hand, they'll say, oh, look at all these great things that happen because of movies and stories. I don't know. I think this is a huge issue. I put this up here. Yes. So I know we should do more of these things, but this is really nice work. So you used, this is D3. Yay! And then you can do this. And these are dolphins. Anyway, really good. Sorry. Well done there. I saw it on Slack, so that's really cool. Okay. All these things continue to become more and more ridiculous, so I'll try to make that better for you. Can't help myself. Okay, that can go away. Okay, all right, let's look at this guy for a second, and then we'll get back to it. Oh my God, this cat is unreal. He's so great. That was in the morning, and then he didn't get off of bed all day. Like, it's just an unbelievable lump. Just terrible. Just a terrible lump. The biscuit what do you call it? Biscuits? Amy's trying to do some writing here, and he gets in there and helps out. Anyway, cat is doing well. Oh, my God. Okay. Yeah, and then you find he's just staring at you. This is the treat receiving position, so. Okay. All right. See, now we feel better. What else should we talk about? Okay, good.